For now, I'm so happy to welcome you all to our webinar on building your power, brand protection for social impact. And we are truly living in extraordinary times, and I just want to acknowledge that and start off the hour with that. Um, right now we're living in what feels like a pandemic within a pandemic. People are protesting daily. If you all saw the pictures from Brooklyn this past weekend, 15,000 people showed up in support of trans Black lives. It was incredibly empowering, but it's also a reminder of the country that we're living in. And I know, like many of you, I feel heartbroken, I feel frustrated, I feel angry, but I am still grateful. I'm grateful for everyone in this room. I am grateful to create the space with you. And I am grateful to help build power for Black, Indigenous, people of color, first generation, queer folks, and immigrants. And so with that, I want to set an intention for this space today. In this space, we're going to value honesty, vulnerability, and emotions. And above all else, we're going to value your identities. We're about to embark on a discussion that's going to center the experiences of Black folks, particularly two incredible Black women that we invited to be our guests and experts on this. And I've encouraged both of them, Ruky and Lynn, to be as open and vulnerable as they're comfortable with. And I encourage all of you to do the same thing. So for the next hour, if you have any questions or comments for Ruky or Lynn, please go ahead and drop them in the chat box and the Q&A box. We will be monitoring those, and we'll save some space at the end for Q&A. So with that, I do want to introduce our experts today. Ruky Tijani is a lawyer and social entrepreneur. And up until last year, she worked at one of the top litigation firms in the country. However, she quickly realized that the extensive intellectual property expertise that she was providing for top dollar clients was not always available for entrepreneurs of color and first generation change makers. So she founded her own firm, Firm for the Culture. Great name, Ruky. Ruky is also the founder and creator of the First Generation Purpose Project. You should find them on Instagram, really great content. The First Generation Purpose Project is an initiative that's designed to help first generation professionals and entrepreneurs navigate life and career challenges. And last year, we actually awarded Ruky the Change Lawyer Changemaker Award for legal diversity for all of the effort she's done and for really breaking the mold of what it means to be a lawyer. And then I'm also very excited to introduce Lynn Johnson. Lynn is an award-winning entrepreneur and CEO of Spotlight Girls, and she's actually going to be talking about her journey as a creator and entrepreneur of protecting her brand. Spotlight Girls is a certified B Corp based here in Oakland, and they educate and activate girls and women to take center stage and become leaders. She is also the co-founder and executive producer of Oakland Freedom Theater. If any of you have had the privilege of seeing Oakland Freedom Theater in action, it's incredible and life-changing. And she's also one of the co-founders of the Dismantle Collective, an amazing group of folks who seek to dismantle white supremacy, patriarchy, and all the other forms of oppression. And I have been to many of Dismantle Collective's events. Please look out for them. They are really, really good, really incredible, really great spaces for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And Lynn was also the MC of our Leader Summit last year. She did an incredible job. And we also hosted her Freedom Theater for part of the day. And it was a really great time. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Ruky and Lynn. Go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to start off by just saying thank you so much to Change Lawyers, and thank you so much to Carlos for making space for a vibrant, beautiful discussion about the intersectionality of social impact, social justice, and owning what's rightfully ours, our creativity, our intellectual property, our invention. So super, super excited. And I am super excited to talk with Lynn today. I'm going to go into the interview seat for a little bit of time for our session today to really talk with Lynn about the amazing work that she is doing. I had the opportunity to meet Lynn actually during the Change Lawyer Summit last year when she was interviewing me about the First Generation Purpose Project, which is, as Carlos stated, an initiative designed to help first-gen professionals navigate life and career by utilizing the grit and tenacity that's already in them. And she talked with me about being a first-generation attorney, about working in the top litigation firm in the country, and how my experience really shaped the foundation and really set the foundation for the next step of my career, which was to start Firm for the Culture, which is the capacity in which I'm talking today, in which I'm talking to you today. So I'm not going to take too much time to speak about myself because I'm super excited to focus on the amazing work that Lynn is doing and how she's expanding the reach of her social impact through protecting her intellectual property. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put it in the chat and also put it in the Q&A section. But let's get started, Lynn.
I am now ready now that I'm off mute. Yes, hi.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So the first question, I can spend time raving about Go Girls and Spotlight Girls, including the amazing work that you and your partner, Allison, are doing to bring so much joy to girls and people and individuals and humans of other genders through the performing arts. But I want you to share a little bit about what Go Girls and Spotlight Girls is about.
Sure. Well, for the purposes of this conversation, I would like to first explain the difference between Spotlight Girls and Go Girls. That's really important. Spotlight Girls is the name of our company, the name of our entity, and we are we're incorporated under that name as a benefit corporation in the state of California, and our main program, our main brand is called Spotlight. It's called Go Girls. So Go Girls actually kind of came first. I mean, we had a different business entity and title before, but from the very beginning, and what we still do now, is we work with kids primarily, teaching kids the social, emotional skills, leadership skills through the arts. And we do that primarily through summer camps and after-school programs. And so my wife and I have been doing that since 2003, and we've been doing all kinds of summer camps. And then in 2008, one of our camps, only girls signed up for it, and that had never happened before. And so we called that summer Go Girls because we were, let's focus on the magic and power of being a girl and what it means to be a bold and brave girl. And that one program wound up being so popular. It was lucrative. It really touched our hearts and souls. And so we then kind of rebranded our whole business around Go Girls. And so that's what Go Girls still does, is we still do after school programs and summer camps for elementary and middle school girls, as well as a leadership component and all of that. So that's what we are. That's the business that we're in.
I love that. I love that. And I loved how you just kind of talked about, taking that opportunity to build up the emotional and psychological and mental character of the young ladies or of the girls who you were serving. So it feels, and let me know if I'm correct. It feels like the solution found you, kind of. You didn't necessarily seek out to find the solution. You really, made lemonade out of this amazing situation when only girls signed up. Is that how kind of Go Girls was started?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one of the reasons why Go Girls was our most successful program to date was because there was something really special about when girls were in a space on their own. Like I said, we've been doing programs for all genders, you know, and similar topics like how do we prepare kids with the social emotional skills they need to kind of get through life through the arts.
Yeah.
But when we had this space where it was only girls, something happened. It was like it just felt different. And we were like, oh, okay, so this is like a thing. That and you know, my wife had grown up in women and girls programming, and I was like a women's studies minor in college, you know, so like we had thought about kind of women's spaces and girls spaces and what it meant when men and boys weren't around, and that kind of thing. So we thought about that before, but there was something about there was a kind of magic to it. And then we started to really ask ourselves, okay, you know, because a lot of arts programs say, and they do like kind of teach these skills of, you know, social skills, emotional skills, but we hadn't found a program that was doing that intentionally, like was really putting like, because it happens just kind of naturally, but we're like, no, how can we be more intentional? So we actually started to ask ourselves, what are the skills? What are the skills that girls need to be learning in order to kind of come into their boldest, bravest selves across cultures? What does that look like? And so at the heart of our Go Girls program is what we call our Go Girls Culture Code, which answers that question. So we have like basically our 5-point like learning framework that is at the heart of it. And then that's the problem we're solving, right? It's like, how do we, like, where do we see girls and girls, and girls, and we also work with gender nonconforming kids as well.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of folks who are now teachers in our program who like came up as girls in our program, identifying as girls, and now they don't identify as girls anymore, but they're still teaching for us. So there's basically what we're doing is we're like kind of blowing the lid off of what it means to be a girl in the first place. And then also in that space, how do you take up space? How do I take up space? How do I feel comfortable making mistakes and learning from them? How do I like get connected to my feelings in a way that is like positive and proactive? And so these are the kind of questions that we answer through our curriculum.
There's just so much richness, Lynn, in what you just said. I've just been like writing stuff down feverishly. And from what you said, I think it could be like really like succinctly characterized as like intentional magic. Like you're building up bold and brave, you know, girls and humans of all genders, but intentional magic, and you're blowing the lid off. So that, I think I'm going to use that as like, what does social impact mean? It means blowing the lid off and making intentional magic. So what is
you
some
might
of
be starting your next organization.
Listen, I'm going to trademark that. I'm going to trademark that. Don't play So with that said, like, what's been some of the most meaningful impact you've made since Go Girls started in 2003?
Well, we've, I mean, there's like all kinds of like anecdotal stories. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds of girls. We're based in Oakland, California, and we've worked with girls, you know, throughout the Bay Area. We've done programs in Oakland, Berkeley, San Francisco, even down in the South Bay. And, you know, we hear stories all the time about those kind of personal, interpersonal changes that are happening inside of like a girl's life. So like I said, I've grown up now, I haven't grown up. The girls have grown up with me. We've been going since 2008, right? So it's been 12 years. And so some of our original Go Girls are like now in college, and they're like activists, and they're artists, and they're scientists, and they, you know, we see like this kind of generation of Go Girls who are like just so like confident in themselves. They're so
Mm.
able to like speak out for for themselves and for other people. They're able to like, you know, take up space and like take in compliments without like being like, oh no, it's not me, I'm sorry, or like, you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I heard a story, one of my favorite stories, a parent was like, oh, you guys, you know, a summer after we had our girls at summer camp, she went into the school year, and there was another girl who was being, you know, who was like kind of bullying other kids on the playground, and she was like
Mm.
calling other kids names, and she like wasn't treating them correctly. And her daughter said, oh, she's really having a hard time. I think that she needs Go Girls Camp. Like they're like they're like able to like kind of understand like that, like, because one of our things is that like we don't believe in mean girls. We just believe that like, you know, people are sometimes like, you know, using their power in ways that are like not the best thing. And so like, how do we do it? So I don't know, just it's like, all I can say is that hundreds of girls, we've heard from hundreds of parents that girls are like just different. They're more confident. They like love themselves more.
Mm-hmm. I
And
love
that's
that.
pretty cool.
I love that. And I know that it is just from our initial conversations, as well as just some of my independent research, I know that it's a Bay Area based organization, but you know, Go Girls has definitely become kind of like a national phenomenon of sorts, right? Like I know you're based in parts of the South, parts of the East Coast. So I want to talk a little bit about your efforts to steward and protect your impact. So I know you decided to federally register the brand Go Girl. So why did you think trademark registration was an important part of like your business strategy?
Yeah, so when Go Girls took off as a program, we were actually in a physical space.
Mm,
We paid rent in a space in Oakland, and as you
mm-hmm.
know, that was a lot of money.
Yes,
And
it was.
and we realized that at that time, we decided like a few years later, as we were growing, that like, oh, we don't want to be about space. We want to be about the program and get the
Yeah,
program into existing spaces.
yeah.
And so we were going back and forth, started to research like, oh, are we going to become a franchise?
Mm,
Are we going to sell licenses? Are we going
yeah,
to run our own programs? Like, we're going to set up shop in different places and try to run stuff. And we knew we had something, and we knew that it was replicable, because like my wife and I were the original teachers. And then because we had a culture code and a really strong training strategy, we were able to teach new teachers. And then suddenly we were like, camp started to like happen without us. And then it still looked and felt like us. We're like, oh shoot, we can do this. We can replicate this. So once we knew that we could do that, we knew we needed to like get a trademark, because we that's just the first thing that we did, because we knew that no matter what we decided to do, we would need to like own that brand.
mm,
So
mm-hmm.
we weren't sure where we would go at first, but the first step we took was get the trademark.
Yeah. And I loved how you're giving language that really kind of really unpacks what social impact is. Like, social impact is replicable, right? By virtue of it being impact, it's something that can happen on a big or national scale, if not an international scale. You talked about, you know, the camp starting to happen without you. And social impact, it's really an amazing effort to shift and change the status quo.
Yeah.
And at Firm for the Culture, we say, if your brand is something that you believe is going to make impact, it's something worth protecting. So I love that. And I also shared, I redacted it because, you know, you got a whole business and and people need to make sure they mind their business. But I redacted it, but I showed the certificate. Go Girls is a federally registered trademark, which means that Lynn and Spotlight Girls, they actually own the brand all over the continental United States, which means that they have exclusive rights to use that name and or license it out to people who may want to use that name. So with that said, you know, the trademark application process is oftentimes 6 to 18 months long and can be really complex. But despite that, you know, some people, maybe in like the nonprofit or the social impact space, they might, you know, do some DIY. and try to engage the process by themselves. And I see that you had an attorney represent you. So why did you decide to get legal assistance rather than doing it by yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. And we were talking with this Ruky,
Yeah,
about how when you're an entrepreneur, you try to do a lot of things by yourself.
Yes, you do.
and there's so much you have to do, right? Like as an entrepreneur, no matter what kind of entrepreneur you are, you have to suddenly, no matter what your background is, you're now a marketer and and a finance person and a salesperson and the chief executive and all these things and the window washer and all that stuff.
Yes, you are.
And it makes you a little nuts. And so, I think I started kind of went on the website. What's the website called? The United States?
The USPTO, the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
Yeah, I think I Googled and was like, let me see if anyone has this trademark, and found out that no one did. And then after that, it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I think I could, I don't know if I could have tried to put it together, but it just didn't make sense to me to do it myself when there are attorneys who do this. And there's a very standard procedure, and I felt like I didn't have to do that much. I had to pay the money and I had to answer the questions and fill out the forms. But those kinds of things, it's why any person who is an entrepreneur who is not because not all entrepreneurs are good with money, for example, even though you would think we would be.
That's a word.
I'm not that great with money. So I'm let you get a bookkeeper, get an accountant. Don't do that mess yourself if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's those kind of professional services in general, I think are really worth it. And so, it didn't even, at some point, it didn't even occur to me to try to do it myself. I think using an attorney is the only way to go.
Yeah. And I love that you talked about how when you're an entrepreneur and when you're building a brand, you're essentially putting on so many different hats. And the last thing that you want to add to your list of hats is the esquire, or the hat of a lawyer, especially if you're not necessarily trained in that field. And the idea of social impact is something that we typically want to outlast us. And we want it to, and in order for it to be powerful, to truly be the impact that we want it to make, it has to be sustainable, right? So the last thing that we want is we're making all this impact, we're encouraging girls, and then we get a cease and desist letter, which I have sent out
Sure.
successfully, because I'm from Brooklyn and I went to Berkeley. So, but best of both worlds. But, that's the last thing that you want, because it's really going to hinder your efforts to make the impact that you started the business to do. So and you're making impact, right? So while we're working on, the trademark and representing you before the United States Patent and Trademark Office, you don't have to worry. And you can essentially keep on building out your curriculum, or the 5 points, or the girls, or the Go Girls Code, or what have you. So it really is.
That's right. I mean, I think that's, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that I think that what you're saying is so right on, learning early as much as possible how to kind of find those parts of your business where you can delegate out, and you can be like, okay, let me hire this person. And I know that sometimes we get into that mentality, a little bit of that I want to save the money, but there are some places where you just don't want to save the money. And I think if it has to do with an attorney or an accountant, get the money and pay for it. And I felt like the process, I mean, I'm sure we'll hear more from you about this, but from my end, the process of going through trademark, it was a lot of waiting, but it wasn't a lot of effort on the client's end.
Yeah.
Right? It was I just waited for my attorney to tell me to give me updates. Because you're so you can tell the whole process. I don't know why that from your end, but it was not really, it seems like a no-brainer. If you're thinking about replicating what you got, make it happen. Just own that brand, own it,
Yes.
own it.
Yes. Own it. Own it. Exactly. I love it. And let's get back to the brand that you own, Go Girl. So I know, so we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that it doesn't only operate in California. So where else does the illustrious Go Girls also operate?
Well, Ruky, you're so sweet. We are not as big as you are making us sound, but
They're a big deal. They're a big deal.
no, we're a huge deal, but we're not in that many places yet. So right now we're in California and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And we did go through the process of, we decided in the end that we would sell licenses.
Mm.
And so our curriculum is licensed. So we have 3 people, 2 in California and 1 in Florida, who have paid us money to be able to use the brand and the curriculum via a license.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, we have, hundreds of girls in, and the Florida is new, so that's like coming up. And then there's a whole other thing about the fact that COVID hit and camps aren't happening. We can get into we have a whole other webinar.
Right.
So, but what I'll say, the only thing I'll say about that is that we did have to, because of that, we did have to pivot and create a virtual program. And because of that, we do now have Go Girls who are participating in a virtual Go Girls program, and that's happening. We have folks from Colorado, folks from New York, folks from I don't know.
I stand corrected.
Places,
you are a big deal. You are a big deal. Lynn, we're not doing this. I'm not going to argue with you. You're a big deal. You're Beyonce in my head. Okay, there we go. We've established the baseline. So determining you said you have about 3 partners, 2 in California, 1 in Florida. So, this is Go Girls is kind of your baby. It's your brand. It's something that you've built from the ground up. So I'm sure that there were a lot of considerations that were on the table when you decided to license your brand out for other people to use. So what were some of the factors that you considered in allowing other people to use the name Go Girls and the curriculum with it?
Yeah, the very first consideration is values alignment. That's the first thing. And luckily, because we have a culture code, that kind of is our values right there.
Absolutely.
So everything, everyone who currently is a licensee has they were from we have a process of making sure they really understand the culture code, how they fit into that. If this is what you're buying into, because that's the thing that Go Girls is. We're looking at people who have experience in running programming for children. So I think that values alignment and then quality. Control is I guess, that's for lack of a better term, is the 2 most important factors. So we do have an application process and a process of just being and it's not, it's a minor process, but it's important in terms of just making sure that you're going to honor this brand and you're going to, do your best with it and that kind of thing. So those were the biggest. And then I guess the third thing, so values alignment, quality control, and then the third thing would be just what would I call it? You're kind of business sense, are you
business savvy? This is social impact, it's a business, it's a social enterprise in essence.
Yeah, are you gonna do something with it? This is not so this is not a franchise, so we're not giving you all of our business operations. Everyone has their own business structure. They're integrating this Go Girls program into their own programming. Some people are nonprofit, some people are just kind of they're it's all a little bit different. And so we were are people really gonna go for it? Are they gonna are they just gonna buy this license and then just like not really do anything with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we want them to do
Yeah.
something with it because it's more important that, so they want to be on people that kind of have connections and like are
Yeah.
doing stuff. So
Yeah.
those are the main things that we thought about.
Yeah. Like, are they going to extend the impact?
Yeah.
Are they going to extend? That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Lynn, what were some of the most noticeable benefits that you and Allison have seen as a result of licensing out your brand name?
Well, I mean, what we were hoping to see before COVID.
Right.
Well, because this is new, so we were like, this was going to be our first summer of licensed camps. So
Yeah.
we had started. So we were running our own camp up through last summer of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And this 2020 was going to be the first summer where camp was 100% happening in multiple places, and that we were making money off of it and not really doing anything.
Yeah.
So we trained, so we provided the curriculum to our licensees, trained them up, and we're coaching them.
Yeah.
And we're still, our commitment is to maintain, because we're all about community. It's go girls, like we're like artists and women and stuff. So it's all about circles and
yeah. Yeah.
So we do provide ongoing coaching for our licensees, but we were just going to be doing ongoing coaching. With COVID coming in, we are actively involved in the creation of this new online, because it's a whole new program.
Yeah.
So I'm working a little bit more than I thought I was going to be at this point, but
yeah.
But so at the same time though, I have these other partners who are like collaborating with me on this new program. So because they have a vested business interest in this new program. Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. And now as we start to like look at how the economy comes back and like if summer camps come back, how like it's just a matter of like you pay us money, we train you.
I love it.
We do it. And we have this community so there's money to be made without you, theoretically. But I think even more important, especially in the social impact space, is that I get to like coach and mentor these newer entrepreneurs who like care so much about these same values and the same curriculum, and they're not having to invent it all, right? They love it. They love our culture code. They love our curriculum, and they can just like boom, 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 boom. Two of the three licensees are Black women, so like I love that so much. And
I love it.
And I'm finding finding even more like women of color who like want to do this. So it's just like we like have a strong community of Go Girls, and so that's the most exciting piece to me.
Spoken like a true mogul. Spoken like a true. It's like, because and let me know what I'm hearing is like you're making this impact, but you don't have to be physically in all places at all times. Yeah. And you're still getting paid, and you're still fostering this amazing community by kind of bringing people together under the umbrella that is your brand.
Yeah, that's right.
That's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. So, Lynn, thank you so much. So is there any advice that you would have for any social good or social impact organization looking to expand their reach as well as make an impact?
Yeah, I mean, I have all kinds of advice, but
that's another webinar. That's
a whole other webinar. But I do think, on this topic, like I said earlier, I think that this, I think a couple parts of building your brand, just to summarize some of the things I've said so far, is really defining what the brand is. So I keep using the term culture code, because that's like what we call it in our organization. But like, whether it's a service, a program, an educational service like I have, or a product or whatever, like really understand that your brand is that. It is like that behind the scenes, like why you exist, and how, like no matter what, like what is your what's your way? Like, how is it that people, you know, coming in, whether it's new employees or whether you eventually license it or any customer, like it feels like your thing, like developing the culture of your organization around it is your brand. And so like do that work, that's hard work. And then hire a lawyer to trademark your brand while you're doing that work.
While you're doing the work.
And because that's stuff only you can do. Definitely hire Ruky specifically.
Aw, shucks.
Not that this is a commercial, this is a webinar, but still, you know, why not? To, you know, or whoever, whatever attorney you want to hire someone to like do, like really take care of you and help you take care of that brand. Because those two things hand in hand, like once you own that, the process and the trademark to go along with it, then you could do anything, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And we had one more question from the audience. I just wanted to make sure we honored that. So they asked, if you're first starting off with a limited budget, what are some of the roles and responsibilities that you think are worth outsourcing? Really quickly.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends a little bit on the type of business that you have. I do think that number one, it's really important to have an account, like to have a bookkeeper or an accountant. I think that's really, really crucial.
I definitely have one.
Kind of business. Do you have one, Ruky?
I do. I absolutely do. That was the first, because as lawyers, we're very, very highly regulated. Like the money that goes into our account, when it's earned, like I was just like, here, take this. Please take this.
Yeah.
So I can focus on serving my clients.
Yeah, I think that that's for any business across the board. That's the most important person to outsource. And then the like legal, anything that has to happen legally, hire an attorney. And then I guess it depends on your business. I think people underestimate hiring assistants. Like any kind of like administrative, even if it's like a virtual assistant, just like help you get your stuff straight. So that's a general answer to that question.
Absolutely. So I know we have a lot of questions. I see Mope Lola's or Gloria's question, and that's something that we're definitely going to address in the next part of the session. But I wanted to start off by just saying thank you so, so, so much, Lynn.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. And where can we follow you? How can we support you? As you say these things, I will feverishly Google you so I can put these links in the chat box.
If you want to know, so good, gogirlscamp.com gives information about the Go Girls program, specifically what's happening this summer. And then if you go to spotlightgirls.com, that has more information about becoming a licensee. Those are we'll start with those. And then I can put my social stuff in the chat.
So I thank you again. So I shared I shared spotlightgirls.com. So again, thank you so, so much. So I'm gonna take the mic now, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of trademarking, brand protection, owning your intellectual property. And I'll also talk a little bit about some of the considerations that Lynn brought up, which include what are some of the factors that you should consider when deciding to license out to people. So I am just super, super excited because, as Carlos stated, we are in a really unprecedented time. You know, we're in an incredibly unique position to make monumental social impact. You know, the Supreme Court just came out with 2 decisions that I believe are largely relevant right now and characteristic of our time. You know, LGBTQI people now can't be fired on the basis of their sexual orientation. And then another recent decision stated that a trademark owner is not required to submit evidence of an infringer's malicious intent or state of mind in order to be able to sue them for profit, which means that you can get sued for trademark infringement or brand theft or brand infringement, even if you don't know that you're infringing on another person's brand. And that decision came out in April. So against this backdrop, you know, we really are in an amazing time where we're able to make huge impact, but also we're open to a little bit more vulnerability if we're not seeking to protect the impact that we're making. So before I go on, I want this to be a really interactive discussion, and I want to know, what does social impact mean to everyone? I want to take a minute and open up space for that. Type in the comment section below what social impact means to you. I know Lynn talked about just her social impact, which, you know, I describe again as intentional magic. Being like blowing the lid off, allowing girls and humans of all genders to be bold and brave. So let me know what social impact means to you. Cindy Lopez said having a positive effect. I agree. Absolutely. Like, we have some really good, taking control of all leverage. Ruby Rodriguez said taking control of all, that's a word. That is a word. Carlos said being informed by your lived experience. Exactly. Like, social impact is definitely an opportunity to utilize your lived experiences to allow other people who have similar experiences to know that they matter. Planting, America Ambrise said, planting seeds of hope and change. Sharjat Spulu said, bringing the voiceless to light. I love that. Johnston, hopefully I'm saying your name right, said, creating an environment where people can feel safe to share their experiences so we can all grow and learn from each other. I love it. And I think the thing that ties all of our definitions of social impact is that they usually involve a national and sometimes international effort. And as I stated in our recent discussion with Lynn, we don't want these efforts stifled by an infringement suit, which unfortunately happens a lot more than you'd often expect, particularly because what we're doing is really unique and niched in the social impact space. Your name tends to serve as a proxy to consumers that you're actually doing good and contributing good to the world. Like, for instance, let's take, Patagonia or Tom's Shoes. They're very, very different brands than Shell Gas or even Tesla. Now imagine if Shell Gas was able to have what's called a Patagonia initiative that doesn't necessarily involve environmental sustainability, right? Or Tesla was able to have a Tom's Shoes program that doesn't involve their famous one-on-one model. Consumers will likely, be confused and even give money to companies and organizations that may not align with their goals or the values that they have. So that's why it's really important to protect your IP, because what you're doing is so unique and it's principled. There are values to this. There's a mission to this, and it involves a lot of groundwork. So you don't want your name to be taken by others who may not have the same value, the missions, or the goals or the social impact goals in mind. So before I go on to what licensing all of this really looks like, let's start off with just like the basics. Let's break down the differences between trademarks, copyrights, and patents. So a trademark, shows the world that you are identifying a name, a logo, a design, a sound, sometimes even a color, to point to the source of your goods and services. So what does that actually mean in English, right? So I oftentimes give examples, and one of my more famous examples is Starbucks, right? We all know Starbucks. We know that Starbucks sells coffee. And we know that when outside opens up again, we know that when we see someone with the illustrious Starbucks cup with the green logo, the mermaid on it, we know that that cup is not from McDonald's, right? We know that that cup or the product or service that the person was given is not from Dunkin' Donuts or Pete's Coffee or even Folgers. And that's because the brand or the logo was used to serve as a source identifier. It's identifying the source of the goods and services that this person now has in their hands. And like I said, trademarks can cover like a variety of things, including sounds. So at the risk of being embarrassed right now, I'm gonna give you like a very familiar sound that you might recognize, and put in the comment what you think it is. So can anyone guess what that sound is? Yes, yes, so it's MGM, 20th Century Fox, MGM. And thank you. And that's a trademark. That's a trademark. Anytime you hear that sound, that points to the specific business that is producing the film or cinematic artistry that's about to come after it. So, and then trademarks can also cover colors. So, Tiffany blue, when you see Tiffany jewelry, and you see that very unique blue color, that's actually trademark. So anytime you see that color in association with jewelry, you know that it's coming from a certain business or organization that has a certain quality or mission that you can trust, right? Now, a copyright, on the other hand, it shows the world that a business or an individual made an artistic or creative work, like a song, a book, a course, sometimes even a dance, that they have the exclusive right to reproduce. So copyright literally means the right to copy. And it's come to mean the body of exclusive rights granted by law to copyright owners for the protection of their work throughout the time of protection. And then on the other hand, patents protect what's called new and non-obvious inventions. And it gives the owner exclusive use of the invention throughout the time of protection. So an invention is seen as novel if it's different from other similar inventions in one or more of its parts. So patents really protect originality. And it can't be, it's something that could not have been publicly used, sold, or patented by another inventor within the year of the date in which the patent application was filed. I'm not going to get too much into the specifics, but an invention is also non-obvious if somebody who's skilled in the field, whether it's mechanical engineering, civil engineering, biochemical engineering, they wouldn't consider this invention an unsurprising development. So it has to be like really new and out there in order to be patentable. So what is the actual difference, right? And oftentimes for my clients, I use an analogy. So let's take, for instance, a Sony TV, right? Sony sells TVs. Now, to the extent that the name Sony is on the box or in the bottom center of the TV, that name serves as the trademark of the TV company because it is the name or logo that distinguishes that good from similar goods in the marketplace. So we know that it's not a Toshiba TV, right? We know that it's not RCA. And then a commercial or jingle about the TV, or even jingles coming out of the TV, or even this webinar that we're in, that can serve as copyrighted material because it's an artistic or literary work in a fixed medium. And then patents would protect the invention that is the TV. So, and patents even protect things that are like really, really granular at times. I remember when I was working in my law firm, we were engaging in a patent infringement case, and we were arguing over who owned things as granular as like the swipe on an app, or the swipe up, or the double tap, or the like. And that's because patents can cover things that are super, super granular and really small. And when you think about how much you swipe your phone all the time, just think about how much that can cost when you replicate that and scale it. So again, patents can cover things that are super small, super granular. And between all three of these things, you're really taking steps to protect your intellectual property. Now, patents and copyrights are typically limited in time, but trademarks they can last virtually forever as long as you keep up with the maintenance fees. So I want to go back to you guys and let me know what you think. Put a T in the box if you're thinking about trademarking your brand. Put a C if you're thinking about copyright. Put a P if you're thinking about patenting. And then put a combination of the sort if you're thinking that you need trademark, copyrights, and/or patents. I want to see what you guys are saying. So Rashida says T and C. Okay. Karen says T and C. Awesome. SPULU says T and C. Ruby says T and C. Elizabeth says T and C. Awesome, awesome. Mope Lola, I think you're my Nigerian sister from the name. Mope Lola Gloria says T and C. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you guys. And because I love all things trademarks, I want to show you a little trick. So how many of you guys know how to search on the trademark database? Put a 1 if you do, and put a 2 if you don't know how to determine if the name that you have is if the name that you have is taken by another person. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to show you guys how to do a very basic and a very simple trademark search. So as you may know, the USPTO does have this database for free on the USPTO website. So let me start a share. And you start off by going, can everyone see this? And you start off by going to the trademark, sorry, I don't know what's going on my screen. You start off by going to the Trademark Electronic Search System, also known as TESS. And typically you start off by going to basic word search. Okay, so it's not letting me be great. Let's try this one more time. What is going on right now? Apologies for that. If it's not working right now, let's see. Okay. Apologies for that. Sometimes the trademark electronic search system literally fails us. So let's try this one more time. Okay, perfect. All right, so you start off by going to basic search and you keep all the options as is, and let's put in, I don't know, Starbucks into the search term, and then we just press submit query. And as you can see, there are currently 157 records in the United States Patent and Trademark Database associated with Starbucks. So I'll just go really briefly through what each of these portions mean. So the first column is called the serial number. So by virtue of engaging the trademark application process, any application that you file in the USPTO, with the USPTO, is automatically given a serial number. And it doesn't guarantee that you'll be given a federally registered trademark, but it does allow you to follow your application and follow the updates throughout the entire 1.5-year long process. And then the second column is what's called the registration number. Now, only after you engage the 1.5-year long process successfully are you given a registration number. And then the next column is called the word mark. And the word mark stands for what are the words associated with your brand, to the extent that there are words. So you see Starbucks barista, Starbucks is, like, you know, trademarked a bunch of Starbucks related brands. And these are all the words that are seen in association with the brand. And now you see some blank spots too, and that's because it might just be a wordless logo, like the mermaid, for instance, that doesn't necessarily have words in it. So that's likely what is being applied for here. And then the check status, TSDR, that stands for the Trademark Docketing System. So that allows you to look at the entire docket for any trademark or any application that was filed with the USPTO, which is really important because trademarks are entirely public, which means that Your information, your address, your phone number, your email address is all public should you decide to engage this process by yourself. Now, on the other hand, should you decide to work with Firm for the Culture, we cover you. They're not going to be able to access you without talking to me as your attorney. So this is one of the benefits of having a lawyer by your side. And then the last column is a live or dead column. So live means that the application is still alive and well, and it can serve as a basis to stop other applications that are similar to it that come after the application. So if somebody were to try to trademark or file an application for Starbucks Barista, because the Starbucks Barista application is still live, this can be used as a basis to stop similar or confusingly identical brand names that may come after it. And dead, on the other hand, means that the application no longer can serve as a basis to stop other applications that come after it. And applications can become dead for a variety of reasons. One of the most common reasons an application ends up being dead is because the applicant abandoned the mark. So oftentimes when we, go through LegalZoom or go through these filing companies that are not actually attorneys, they don't necessarily tell you that there are problems with the mark. So that means that you might oftentimes be subject to what's called an office action, which is an initial rejection by the USPTO for a variety of reasons. And then at this point, people get scared and they oftentimes leave the application. They don't touch it, they don't do anything. And after about 6 to 8 months, your application is then deemed abandoned, which means that you lose any priority that you had in possible federal registration, and you have to start from scratch, and you don't get a refund, and it's all public. It's all public. So someone could theoretically see that, if you tried to trademark the brand and you weren't successful, they can go ahead and trademark the brand and then send a cease and desist letter to you because they have the federal rights and you don't. So that's a little bit about it. And let's kind of go back and talk a little bit about just how interesting the searching through tests is. So, it looks pretty straightforward. We just put Starbucks in and we found 157 records. But the thing with tests is it's deceptively simple. It only puts out what you put in. And that's why it's important to have someone who's skilled in trademarks by your side. So let's put in Starbucks again, but this time we're going to put it in with 2 S's rather than 1. And let's press submit query. Now we currently see that no test records were found to match the criteria of your query. And oftentimes to an unsuspecting, young entrepreneur or starting entrepreneur, when they don't find matches, they oftentimes think that that means that they're in the clear. But I'm sure that all of us can agree that if you try to trademark Starbucks with an extra S at the end, you will be not only stopped by the USPTO, you might get sued from Starbucks itself. And it's the same thing, if you put in words like girl, you're not going to find like GYRL and GIRL. So it's really important that you work with the trademark attorney to engage comprehensive strategy to help you, one, determine if there's a confusingly similar name out there that might stop your mark from being registered, or if there are other people or other brands that might compromise your ability to get the full rights to your name. So I know for the sake of time, it's 1 o'clock. So I'm gonna just take 5 more minutes to talk a little bit about some of the licensing considerations, and then I want to make time for questions. But if you are following me, just say 1. And if you're not following me and if you have questions, please put them in the box. I want to make sure that what I'm saying is making sense. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. So for own. right? So as a brand, she took steps to own her brand, and there's a lot of benefits to doing that, including getting exclusive rights to the mark. And you know, some of the things that you should consider in determining whether to license your brand out is need to be clear on who owns what. So the agreement needs to specifically identify the trademark that's being licensed out and exactly what services or goods are being licensed out. As a social impact organization, it's really important to determine if the person that's going to be a licensee of your brand is actually aligned with your company values and your mission, and is actually business minded, because you want to make sure that your impact is happening past you. You also want to determine whether you're going to license out the brand to them exclusively, which means that they'll be the only one who's able to utilize the brand, or if you want a non-exclusive license, which grants them rights, but also allows you to sell those rights to other third parties all over the country or all over the world. So those are some of the factors that you can consider. And I have a very long list, but for the sake of time, I want to make time to honor your questions. And hopefully this has been helpful. So we have one question. So SPULU said, is it a smart move as a growing brand to trademark multiple names if you offer multiple services in one area? So SPULU, I think what you're speaking to is a difference between what's called a house mark and a trademark. And a house mark is typically seen as the all-encompassing mark under which your different goods and products and services lie. And then the trademark is like the name of the product or the discrete products or services that you sell. And it's and to answer your question clearly, it's one of strategy. It's really one of strategy. The United States Patent and Trademark Office, they don't distinguish between the fees that are necessary for a house mark and the fees that are necessary for a trademark. So the question that I would have for you, should you decide to work with us, is how wedded are you to the sub names? I think it's important to go ahead and trademark the house name or the umbrella name first, especially if that's the name under which you're going to continue selling your discrete products and services. And then we can start talking about rolling out some of your sub names. As you saw, on the USPTO website, there's about 157 records for Starbucks, right? But I'm pretty sure that Starbucks started out with just the Starbucks name, and then they might have gone on to Starbucks Frappuccino or Starbucks Fizzio or Starbucks, Macchiato, but they started off with the house name. So that's something that we can talk about in terms of strategy, should you decide to go forward and trademark your name. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so I'm going to give the mic back to Carlos, and I just want to say thank you so much. If you want some free trademark tips, feel free to, again, follow us on Instagram. And if you like, I'd love for you, and I don't know if Carlos is going to do this, like have them leave like a survey just to tell us how we did, how much you enjoyed this. We're always looking for great feedback, so here's a link for the survey. And if you want to book a call with us, to work with us, I'll leave that link here as well. But thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you so much, everyone, for just taking time to listen to us. And hopefully this empowered you as you continue to make social impact, and reminded you that you too can like really monetize your amazing impact as you make your mark on the world. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ruky and Lynn. I'm really glad to have you all here. And if you haven't seen Ruky's information both on Instagram and on her mailing list, I encourage you all to sign up. And you should be receiving some more information from Ruky about what this means. She has a really great one-pager on how to protect your brand that change lawyers ourselves have been looking at. So I really appreciate you coming on here and talking about this. And always a pleasure to host you. And please, folks, please tell us in the survey if you would like to see more of this type of content, or if you have any other questions. And Lynn, I see that you're back, so thank you so much for being with us. I know that you have an event coming up at the end of the week, if you want to tell folks about that.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Carlos mentioned earlier that I'm part of a group called Oakland Freedom Theater, and we do a form of theater called playback theater, which is an improvisational form where audience members tell stories from their real life, and actors and musicians play those stories back. And we use this form of theater for the work of social justice and diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And at the end of the week on Friday, which is Juneteenth, Friday, June 19th, in the evening at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, we are doing a Juneteenth performance specifically for Black and Afro-Latin folks to come together in a healing space and tell stories of Black joy and Black struggle. So I can put that in the chat real quick. Thanks for that 2 seconds.
Thanks so much, everyone, and stay tuned for our next events at Change Lawyers. We're planning a lot of really interesting stuff for the rest of the summer. Thank you so much for spending the hour with us, and have a great day.